Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to a very special edition of the Three Martini Lunch, brought to you today by SaneBox. Visit sanebox.com/martini to get your inbox closer and perhaps all the way to inbox zero. You get a 2-week free trial, but if you sign up with us, an extra $25 credit on top of that. We'll talk about that later as well. We have good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives today. And Jim, let's start with the good news. And this follows up on a story we did a little bit while ago and actually referenced again yesterday about millennials just not being all that interested in the 2016 presidential campaign. This one is courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. Quote, in the new Journal NBC News poll conducted October 10th through 13th, Mrs. Clinton led Mr. Trump among 18 to 29-year-old likely voters by 13 percentage points, 43% to 30%. That's narrower than Mr. Obama's 23-point margin over GOP nominee Mitt Romney with that age group in 2012. In 2012, Mr. Obama relied heavily on college towns in the battleground states he won. He captured the vote in 32 of 40 college town counties in Colorado, Florida, Iowa, Michigan, New Hampshire, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin. In those counties, he captured 58% of the vote. Compared with 52% in those states overall. So in battleground states, when it's a close election, those votes can make a big difference. But as we mentioned earlier, Jim, the millennials not fired up, less than 50%, absolutely dedicated to voting this year. And even when they are, as in this likely voter poll, Hillary Clinton's not winning them over nearly the way Barack Obama did.
The Wall Street Journal headline is Millennials aren't fired up. The other alternate headline you could suggest would be Millennials more rational than their reputation suggested. And it's worth noting, if you told me that Hillary Clinton was getting 43% of the vote of voters under 30 about, a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have said, wow, that is great news for Republicans. That is, as you noted, a demographic that Obama cleaned up in. It's clearly something Democrats were counting on to run up the score and create really key margins in a lot of key states. If you said to me the Republican candidate is getting 30, I'd be pretty bummed. But when you have that and you add that together, people who can do math are like, oh, that only adds up to 73%. That means 27% are either going with Gary Johnson or Jill Stein or I suppose Evan McMullin or other candidates or not sure or just not going to vote. Those of us who worry that the millennials were going to march lockstep with the Democrats into the future, that's not coming to pass. And somebody else pointed out, it was a good point. In 2014, Republicans got half the votes in this demographic. So Republicans are actually not, under the right circumstances, Republicans can win amongst young voters. I think it's safe to say that Donald Trump is not the ideal candidate to win voters under age 30. And you could argue that maybe he's the worst possible selection. But you know what? The Democrats managed to botch this, whether you think that Bernie Sanders was better or whether you think that generally a younger candidate performs better. I think we are reaching the end of the era of baby boomer candidates, Greg. And as a Generation Xer, that day can't come soon enough. And it demonstrates that this is a demographic that Republicans don't need to concede in the future. That it's a loose grip there, and that Republicans can win some back. They just need to nominate candidates who actually make an effort for it. And who hopefully are a little less long in the tooth and able to relate to this demographic better than the current nominee.
Let's move on to the bad martini.
That's a good martini, everybody.
We've talked about Obamacare and how it's perhaps in its death spiral a couple different times, but as we get closer to the end of October, we get the actual premium rates from different insurers in different states heading into the next open enrollment period, which starts not too long from now. And let's just say the numbers are horrific. This also from the Wall Street Journal. Finalized rates for big health insurance plans around the country show the magnitude of the challenge facing the Obama administration as it seeks to stabilize the insurance market under the Affordable Care Act in its remaining weeks in office. Market leaders that are continuing to sell coverage through healthcare.gov or a state equivalent have been granted average premium increases of 30% or more in Alabama, Delaware, Hawaii, Kansas, Mississippi, and Texas, according to information published by state regulators and on a federal site designed to highlight rate increases of 10% or more. In states including Arizona, Illinois, Montana, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee, the approved rate increases for the market leader top 50%. In New Mexico, the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan agreed to resume selling plans through the online exchanges after sitting out last year, but has been allowed to increase rates 93% on their 2015 level. Dominant insurers in Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, and Oregon have also been allowed to raise premiums by 20% or more. And USA Today's got a story out that some state insurance commissioners are actually granting bigger premium increases than the companies are even requesting because they're trying to keep them in the game long term. So, Jim, this is at least as bad as we predicted, perhaps way worse and way faster.
Yeah. As a headline on National Review today puts it, Obamacare is unraveling way ahead of schedule. Even for those people who thought that this was, destined to not work. Look, this is a golden opportunity for Donald Trump in the debate tonight. He did mention Obamacare a bit in the second debate. I think if he is smart, he will get specific and he will mention these rate hikes. I think when you see that, your eyes kind of pop out of your skull a little bit. Imagine your premiums go up 30%. Imagine go up 50%. Can you imagine having one of those plans in New Mexico and they say, oh, yeah, we're bringing it back and you can have it again. You just have to pay double what you were paying before. All right. The simplest and easiest, most truthful and effective argument against Obamacare is that the Affordable Care Act is failing to live up to the first two words in it. It is not providing affordable care. And it was sold to the American public on a pack of lies. It is not delivering what it promised. Obama said it was going to lower premiums by $2,500 for the average family. The Democrats passed their law the way they wanted it. They wrote it. They said they had to pass the law so we would see what's in it. Well, now we see what's in it. You are paying more and you cannot afford care. They lied to you. They lied to your faces. They said you could keep your doctor. They said you could keep your plan. You cannot trust a darn thing these guys say. And that is why you need a Republican free market approach to give you more options for more insurance companies, to have them competing for your business, because that's the only thing that's going to make things better. And if Trump goes out that, I think he can really score on this. My fear is he's just going to go out there and say, it's all stinks. It's all terrible. It's rigged. And without going into the specifics, people will tune it out. I think if you make these arguments and you point to these premium hikes, you will get Democrats, not diehard progressives and not the folks who are, who believe President Obama can do no wrong. But I think there are a lot of Democrats who will look at their neighbors, even if they're not affected by it themselves. They will look at people having to pay 50% more than they did the previous year and say, that's wrong. That's an example that this system is not working the way it's supposed to, and that we got to start over again.
Not only that, what's not in this article, but what we've also talked about before is that deductibles are skyrocketing too. So you're paying exorbitantly more for your premiums, but it doesn't even do you any good until you rack up thousands and thousands of dollars worth of medical bills. And so it's just absolutely intolerable. And you're right, Trump would be smart to do it. Every Republican running for Senate and House would also be very smart to talk about this and say, do you really think Hillary Clinton's going to move this in the right direction? Do you think my opponent's going to move this in the right direction? Because the answer to that clearly should be no. So it's insane. But at least your email inbox doesn't have to be like that. They don't even charge you that much at SaneBox. Not even close. How many emails do you have in your inbox? 100, 1,000, 20,000? If your email is anything like ours used to be, the answer is way too many. But here's the thing. You've got a ton of emails. Some of them might actually matter, but you don't want to have to sift through them, and you certainly don't have the time. So what do you do about it? Well, when we finally made this arrangement with SaneBox, we got to use it, and we figured out how they reach inbox zero, because decides which emails you need to see and which ones you can see later. And when you open up your Gmail or whatever in the morning, you've got like 5 or 6 emails instead of a few hundred that you would have to sort through and delete. So this is the secret to inbox sanity and reaching inbox zero.
I can't recommend SaneBox enough. It sorts through your email and moves all of the trivial stuff, the stuff that you know you're not going to respond to, you know you don't need, you know you don't care, into a different folder. So the only messages in your inbox are the ones you actually want to see. It doesn't get rid of them forever, just in case you need that press release from Irving Schmidlap, who's holding a campaign rally, because your whole life changes when you get that kind of information. Aside from removing all of the junk so you can focus on the messages that matter, there is this lovely provision called the black hole. Suppose you cover campaigns at National Review, or whatever your job is. And suppose people tell you, Jim, you stink. Jim, you're terrible. Jim, I hate you. Jim, you're a rhino sellout. Whatever type criticism you can put them into the black hole, and you will never hear from that sender again. It's like blocking on Twitter or Facebook or all these other forms of social media. It is so rewarding. I use SaneBox, and Greg and I have worked out a great deal for our listeners.
Visit sanebox.com/martini today. Go to that site specifically, and they'll throw in an extra $25 credit on top of the 2-week free trial. You don't have to give them any credit card information unless you ultimately decide to buy, so there's nothing really to lose with this 2-week free trial plus the $25. Check it out today and let us know if you love the black hole and all these other features and reaching inbox zero as much as we do. Again, that's sanebox.com/martini, sanebox.com/martini. And Jim, as we move to the crazy martini, there's a lot of different metaphors that have been used for this campaign. We like to use dumpster fire. Flaming dumpster fire, I think, was the phrase you used yesterday. But then there's this story. This was out of Gwinnett County, Georgia. This is from CBS 46. The reporter is Christian De La Rosa. Mike Robbins is the business owner who was a witness to this incident.
Witnesses describe a chaotic scene here on the 500 block of Grayson Highway. They say it wasn't just fire trucks, but also toilet paper everywhere and a foul smell. Now, witnesses sent us pictures of the bus. The DNC tells me it was not a Hillary Clinton campaign bus, even though her face is on it. The bus was seen dumping human waste into a storm drain. A businessman who witnessed what happened said he could not believe his eyes.
It's just wrong. It's just, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Hillary Clinton. I don't care if you're Donald Trump. I don't care who you are. You don't dump human waste down a storm drain.
Now, the DNC spokesperson sent me a statement apologizing. She says, in part, this was an honest mistake, and we apologize to the Lawrenceville community for any harm we may have caused.
It was an honest mistake. Jim, what do you make of this just 3 weeks before Election Day?
Further down in that DNC apology, it said, our policy is to only give America metaphorical human waste as an option in this year's election. Not literal ones. Greg, did these people never see National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
Cousin Eddie.
Cousin Eddie puts it out there. The foul fumes come up. It's I guess, methane or something. And as a result of that, they cause a big explosion and stuff.
Yes.
Besides the fact that it's extremely unhygienic and a health hazard. That stuff's got bacteria in it. You don't want it dumped into the nearest streams and bodies of water and things like that. Kind of fits the year, doesn't it, Greg?
Yes, it does.
It's been a rebuilding year for American politics, but you reminded me. I'm kind of thrown by this. So this is actually technically another year of Three Martini Lunch all done.
It is. That's why today's a very special edition. 6 years ago today was the very first Three Martini Lunch. I guess we've finished our first Senate term, or we're halfway through our second presidential term. I don't know exactly. But each year at this time, we like to dig into the archives and think back to a epic moment in the history of the Three Martini Lunch. Sometimes it's years and years in the past, but given how depressing this year has been, we wanted to point out that we've needed cathartic moments to just laugh at the absolute absurd, sometimes even in the wake of horrific tragedy. So we've got a couple of clips here. One of these, unfortunately, came about 3 days after the Orlando club shooting. And at that point, it was about 3 days after the fact, we found out that the FBI had the shooter on the radar screen twice and never decided that he was worth picking up. And then shortly after that, we found out that Disney had found this guy and his wife casing the theme park at Disney World, and they tipped off the FBI. And the FBI completely ignored the warning, even though this guy had been on the radar screen for other things. So here's how we reacted to that back in June.
What do they have to do to get rounded up? Right? I mean, just what is that threshold? Because in this case, this guy never tripped that threshold. And as a result of it, close to 50 people are dead.
You got me thinking when you mentioned what Stephen Miller said, that Mickey Mouse is doing more than the FBI to protect us. As the father, and we've mentioned this before, of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, that would be the greatest episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse ever.
Oh, hands where I can see him. Oh.
Hey, kids, you want to help us catch terrorists? Let's check out our Mousekatools. We're going to have a stun gun.
I'm picturing like Disney's 24. Copy that. Oh, I don't have time to explain. I will shoot your wife in the knee if you don't tell me where the bomb is.
Goofy's doing enhanced interrogation techniques. And...
Hope you like water. See, there's our good martini, Greg.
Oh, Jim, we've got another one, but we got to comment on that one. That might be our moment of creative inspiration right there this year.
Our finest hour, Disney's CTU. Oh, I can't believe we haven't been contacted by the lawyers, Greg.
Then a couple months later, it was late August. Congress is out of Washington. It was past the convention season. I believe it was a Friday, and we were running on fumes to the finish line. And then we got this crazy martini, courtesy, I believe, of the UK Spectator. As far as the bride was concerned, the wedding was perfect. Her dress was beautiful, the vows were traditional, and she changed her name after the ceremony. The clifftop scenery was breathtaking. The 7 bridesmaids were encouraging and supportive. Move over, Princess Di. There was only one thing missing: the groom. Like a growing number of single women, Sarah Starkstrom had decided to marry herself.
Once you've married yourself, Greg, what happens if you find a special someone? Do you sleep with them? Is that cheating? Do you have to ever tell yourself, I've fallen in love with someone who isn't you? Do you have to divorce yourself? There are psychotherapists and lawyers who are like, there's a lot of money to be made in this. And then, if you got an invitation to a friend or coworker's self-marriage, do you spend half of what you usually would on a regular wedding gift? Do you dress formal, right? When they, I assume they're not doing these in churches, but which side would you sit on? The groom or the bride? Do you throw a bouquet and does anybody want to catch it? I mean, there's so many things about a wedding that don't fit when it's an act of self-love like that it's kind of left bizarre.
Jim, we have needed cathartic moments much more than usual in 2016, so I thank you for that, and I thank you for 6 years of informative and an entertaining partnership here.
Well, thank you, Greg, and likewise. And I'll just point out, since that news story, I don't know about you, Greg, I haven't heard anything about self-marriages.
Yes.
So maybe that segment killed it. Maybe we pointed out all the potential flaws in this, and all the narcissists in the world who are usually immune to this sort of thing said, yeah, that doesn't sound like a good idea because I don't want to be mocked on the Three Martini Lunch. Or not.
We're here to serve. Let's hope that's the case. Jim, year 7 starts tomorrow. Talk to you then.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. And once again, we're thankful to be sponsored today by SaneBox. Visit sanebox.com/martini to get that extra $25 credit on top of the 2-week free trial to get sanity back in your inbox. SANEBOX.com/martini. SaneBox.com/martini. Join us on Thursday for the next Three Martini Lunch.